Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're tackling something really important, managing those negative thoughts that can sometimes, take over.
Absolutely. We're talking about cognitive restructuring. Sounds a bit technical, maybe?
It can sound that way, yeah, but the ideas behind it are actually quite practical.
That's the key. It's about actively working with your thoughts, not just letting them run the show.
Exactly. And we've got some really interesting techniques from our source material that break down how you can challenge and reframe that inner critic.
And the goal really is to equip you, the listener, with some actionable methods, things you can try.
Right. Tools to help shift towards, well, a more balanced perspective when things feel tough.
Instead of just feeling stuck with negative thinking, these techniques give you ways to engage with it directly, to push back a little.
Okay, so let's dive into the first one. It's called the balancing act.
I like the name.
Me too. It suggests what it does. Think of a seesaw or maybe like those old balance scales.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that.
So the first step is really just to visualize that. Or you could even, sketch it out quickly if that helps.
I'll make it concrete.
Yeah. Then you take a negative thought that's been sort of weighing on you,
Uh-huh.
and you mentally place that thought on one side of the seesaw.
Okay, so you've got the negative thought sitting there, bringing one side down.
Exactly. But then comes the crucial part on the other side of the seesaw.
The balancing part.
Right. You actively brainstorm and list alternative thoughts, but not just any thoughts that need to be more balanced, more realistic, perhaps.
Yeah, or more positive or just different perspectives.
Hmm.
So, for example, if the negative thought is something about feeling inadequate,
Like, I'm not good enough, or something similar.
precisely. On the other side, you might list things like, well, the source gives examples like,
Yeah.
I am strong, or worthy, caring, kind, happy.
So specific counterpoints.
Yes, things that challenge that initial negative self-perception. It's about acknowledging other parts of yourself, other truths.
And this visual separation, putting them on opposite sides, what does that achieve?
Well, I think it helps create a bit of mental distance, doesn't it, between you and the negative thought.
So it's not just this overwhelming feeling anymore. It's an idea on a scale.
Exactly. It makes it feel less absolute, less powerful,
Mm.
maybe easier to examine more objectively.
Okay, that makes sense. And there's a third step too, right? About the weight.
Yes,
Right.
that's important. It's not just about listing alternatives. You then try to sort of imagine the weight or the validity of each thought on the scale.
So you're assessing them. How true does the negative thought feel versus the balanced ones?
Kind of. It's like asking yourself, okay, how much evidence or belief do I actually place in this negative idea compared to these other possibilities?
It's a way to visually represent that. Usually there isn't just one single negative truth to a situation, is there?
Precisely. It really drives home that multiple perspectives almost always exist. It's a tangible reminder right there on your mental seesaw.
I like that. It feels active. Okay, so that's the balancing act.
A great starting point.
What's next? We also have something called the thought tree.
Yes, another visual metaphor, but this one explores things a bit differently. More about the structure of the thoughts.
Okay, so picture a tree. Simple enough. You've got the trunk, branches, leaves, the whole system.
Got it?
Now, that negative thought you want to work on, the persistent one,
Yeah.
that goes on the trunk of the tree. Think of it like the root or the core of this particular issue.
Okay, so the main negative idea is the trunk. Like if someone feels like a failure.
Right. Or the source uses examples like negative self-labels written on the trunk. Ugly, useless, weak, failure. Really harsh stuff sometimes.
Wow, okay, so that's grounded there on the trunk. Then what?
Then comes the growth part. You start thinking about more positive, more rational thoughts that can kind of branch off from that negative core.
So they're connected, but growing out of it.
Exactly. You write these on the branches and the leaves. It's like you're, cultivating new, healthier growth within that same mental space.
So using that failure example on the trunk, what might go on the branches?
Well, the source material suggests things like worthy, confident, honest, courageous. These are like counter qualities or alternative self-perceptions that branch out.
Interesting. So it's not about pretending the trunk doesn't exist,
No, not at all. It acknowledges the root negative feeling or belief.
but it focuses on generating and strengthening alternative pathways, alternative thoughts that stem from it, or exist alongside it.
Right. You're not just like denying the negative thought. You're actively planting and nurturing these seeds of more positive or balanced beliefs right there in the same mental area.
This seems really useful for seeing how maybe one core negative belief the trunk can lead to lots of different negative feelings or ideas.
Yeah, and maybe how those negative thoughts are interconnected.
Exactly. And the tree helps you consciously build more helpful, more constructive counter-narratives, not just for the main trunk issue, but for all those connected branches too.
It helps you see the underlying belief, maybe, and then build outwards from there.
It's a really generative process, it seems, building new possibilities.
Okay, that's two powerful visual techniques. What's the third one?
The third one is a bit different. It's called the multisensory challenge.
Multisensory. Okay, intriguing. So involving more than just thinking.
Precisely. This technique is all about engaging your different senses, sight, sound, touch, smell, even taste, to actively challenge a negative thought.
How does that work? You look for evidence against the thought using your senses.
Exactly. The core idea is to consciously seek out and focus on sensory experiences, real or vividly imagined, that directly contradict the negative feeling or belief.
Okay, give me an example. If someone feels, say, worthless.
Well, the source material gives some really evocative examples. Instead of just telling yourself, I have worth, you might focus on seeing it. The phrase given is, I can see my worth.
How would you see worth? Maybe looking at achievements or kind interactions.
Could be. Or perhaps visualizing a symbol of your worth. Or noticing something beautiful you created. It's about finding a visual anchor.
Okay. What about other senses?
So there's, I can feel the warmth in me. Maybe focusing on a literal feeling of warmth, or the emotional warmth of connection or self-compassion.
Uh-huh.
Then, I can hear the sound of my victory. This could be recalling praise or imagining a sound that represents success to you.
Like applause or a specific piece of music.
Perhaps, yeah. And I can smell the calming fragrance using scent, maybe aromatherapy or just the smell of nature to counteract anxiety linked to the thought.
Right, scent is very powerful emotionally.
It really is. And finally, even taste. I can taste the resilience in me, which is more metaphorical, obviously.
Yeah, tasting resilience, maybe linking it to the taste of something that signifies strength or overcoming difficulty for you.
Exactly. It's about making the challenge to the negative thought much more, well, embodied, more visceral.
This feels very different from just arguing with a thought in your head.
It really is. Our brains often give a lot more weight to concrete sensory experiences than just abstract logic, especially when dealing with strong emotions.
So this technique kind of leverages that. It creates a compelling sensory-based counter-narrative.
Precisely. It makes the act of challenging the negative thought a much more immersive and potentially a more impactful experience. You're not just thinking differently, you're experiencing differently.
It's almost like creating undeniable proof for your senses that contradicts the negative voice.
That's a great way to put it. It really brings up that question, doesn't it? How often do we try to fight feelings purely with logic?
Yeah, and it often doesn't quite work or feels incomplete.
This technique reminds us we have these other powerful tools, our senses, that can profoundly shift our internal state.
Okay, wow. So those are three really distinct approaches.
Yeah, 3 different angles on cognitive restructuring.
Just to recap for everyone listening, we had the balancing act, using that seesaw visual to weigh negative thoughts against more balanced alternatives.
Then the thought tree, for mapping out the root negative belief on the trunk and cultivating positive, rational branches and leaves.
And finally, the multisensory challenge, engaging sight, sound, touch, smell, or taste to create experiences that actively contradict the negativity.
And all of these offer you really concrete strategies, ways to actively engage with and start to reshape those difficult thought patterns. They're not passive ideas. They're actions you can take.
Absolutely. And maybe one of these resonates more with you than the others. Perhaps you're more visual, so the seesaw or tree works well.
Or maybe engaging the senses feels like a more powerful route for you.
The key thing really is to maybe experiment. See which one feels like it could fit into your own life, into your own way of processing things.
Give it a try when you notice that inner critic piping up.
Definitely. And just to leave you with something to think about, building on that last technique,
Okay.
how might consciously focusing on just one of your senses right now, what you can actually see around you or hear, or maybe the feeling of your feet on the ground, how might that simple act help you challenge or just get some distance from a negative thought that might be lingering in the background for you today?
That's a great closing thought, using the present moment through your senses as an anchor against negative loops.